number one between the Dragons and the Titans. The Dragons in that first pick position. We saw a lot of mage priority in the first set of the day, though that kind of happens whenever Shinto is there. And Hurrowind's God pool is a little bit different than a lot of other mid laners. Yeah, he'll play the Raijin, of course, and the Tiamat, but Sol and Giannis, the two gods that I've thought of for him in this phase.
Yeah, like you said, it's just a completely different kind of style. Shinto has that get him as much farm as we can, and we'll play through Shinto, while Hurry's more, just get the farm you can, Hurry. We're not saving anything from you, for you. It's on you to get to the spots you need to be. But that Janus pick is something that the Jade Dragons do play really strong around because they can play around that duo pressure and just have that Janus rotation from mid.
Cabrakan first overall ban here, Taco. Why?
Fine, okay. I think from that Soul Lane presence has definitely been favoring some Guardians, and Cabrakan is something that I think only enhances the Jade Dragons' playstyle as a team because they've got a lot of synergy going into things outright, but I think it's the lockdown potential that Tartarus Titans are really concerned about because you got to think about some of the things that Paul likes to play. You're working around the Morrigan, even layers with gods like Camazotz, for example. A lot easier to get locked down against the Cabrakan, and maybe even Odin managing to kind of work his way through the cracks. Surprisingly enough, I would almost say that for the Jade Dragons, Cabrakan could be a much more devastating pick than Odin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like when you're a player, of course, they're going to go through some mock drafts and that kind of stuff and guess what the Titans are going to ban against them. I don't know that I would have guessed that they're going to ban Cabrakan first, especially, but Cabrakan at all in the top three, and there's something to be said for that because having all your prep think, okay, they are definitely banning Tiamat from us, or they are definitely banning Odin from us. And all of a sudden they aren't through their first two. You've got to adjust on the fly, and sometimes that can make you make a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And this Cabrakan could be banned for any sort of reasons. It could be a bad matchup for something they're planning on picking. It could be a start that Cabrakan can do because of how his kit works, that Tremors allows him to clear waves just like in the middle of everything. It's a bunch of different things you could do, and he has flex potential. Yeah, I think the cab is just a decent ban.
Also have to remember that Paul has been running a lot of the Hell as of late as well, and I think that Cabrakan it's more about what he's able to restrict that the Titans want to run. I'm right there with Bobby on. I don't think it's so much that they're concerned that it's an OP pick by any means. It just releases a lot of the stress, I think, from some of the backline in terms of not wanting to get shut out from the engagements, although Yamoja with that River's Rebuke certainly introduces a lot of that separation factor, but I like the combination of the Tiamat plus the Osiris, a little bit of early game presence to kind of cut through some of the early game woes that the Tiamat can experience.
Man, I mean, just so much open. This is like when you get in that ranked lobby and they're just passing the bans because they just can't be asked. Like Yamoja, Tiamat, Osiris, the top three picks in this game. You want to talk about playing with fire? I mean, we're talking powerful kits in this game already. But it's the Titans who end up with 2 out of 3 of those priority picks, right? Being in that second pick position. So their banning strategy certainly paying off, at least to some degree.
And because there were so many OP picks early, the Titans were actually able to get a few counters in the matchups. Yamoja, one of the strongest gods in the game. However, she does struggle partially with Osiris. Osiris can walk through that wall, builds Wingblade very easily, and Yamoja kind of struggles playing against that Wingblade. It fares a lot better than that Gilg did from the first game today.
Yep.
So I actually really like that Osiris-Tia combo into the Yamoja.
And it's hell for Hurrowin. You mentioned it for Paul, and for good reason, because that's been a priority pick for him. But it's Hurry this time locking in the hell alongside the Erlong Shen. So your mid 3v3 is now set on both sides. You want to talk about where the prioritization lies? I think we see it for both of these drafts. 3v3s locked in. Which do you like more, Taco?
Definitely leaning a little bit more towards the Tartarus Titans currently, just because I like their responsive factors to what the Jade Dragons have opted for. The Fafnir as well, also another god that has a reliable escape outside of that River's Rebuke. I think he has a lot of chase potential as well, and Osiris and Fafnir are both immediately gods that I think can impose themselves into the backline. They're not really gods that you can prevent from reaching your carries unless the Jade Dragons look for a pick outright, but I do think that prioritizing this Erlong Shen, this is definitely looking more like a feast or famine sort of idea from the Jade Dragons, because Erlong Shen does not have a lot of wiggle room in terms of if he gets caught out in the early game, he's not going to have a very fun mid and late.
Bobby, how do you feel about these two 3v3s locked in so far?
I think the Titans is just easier to run. Like Taco said, playing that Erlang into Fafnir, Tia, Osiris, if he falls behind, he is near worthless what he's going to be able to do. I just think the Titans have a lot more flexibility, and if they fall behind, they can still do a good chunk because of the guys they picked.
I mean, Tiamat, pretty good even when she falls behind, so it makes some sense there as we see a Rom ban and a Chernobog ban, so a couple Hunters taken off the board. Danzaburo is open, and that's something that Panda Cats liked, though I don't think Cyclone's going to pick it up against the Emoja, as we saw what happened to Vote in that style of matchup. So we'll see which direction they want to go, as it's an AMC ban now, so it isn't a mobile Hunter, but not the same as that Danzaburo as I was just talking about. AMC the pick here, or banned away, I should say, from Panda Cat.
Cyclone's been possibly leaning more towards the Izanami. You have to remember he's one of the primary players, or hunters, I should say, that brought this pick to light in the first place and wants to keep it going here. Also going to work very nicely, I think, with the Fafnir. Has a reliable escape for the most part from what the Jade Dragons have opted for, and I think there's a lot of value as well in the Dark Portal silence up against the likes of an Erlang Shen and Hell. It's really just seeming like the Tartarus Titans are trying to prevent Sam from participating.
And Benji gets the counter pick option in the solo lane. They're letting his pick go last, and he's going to go up against the Sobek over there in the solo lane. Not a lot of counter picks to that pick, Bobby. I mean, Sobek is just going to crocodile in your lane, and then he's going to team fight you later. Like, that's all he does.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything you're like, oh, I'm so glad I got that against this Sobek. It's just kind of like maybe another Guardian, just something that can just sit in the lane and just be as effective late game. I think they kind of held the Osiris. I know it's only been played in the jungle so far, but Osiris still does have that flex potential. So going into this last pick, that Osiris could still go to Benji too. So
it's a good point. It certainly could, as it is Danzaburo there for Panda Cat alongside that Yamoja. So some pretty good kill potential in that lane. That's a lane that has to be pretty scary between the CC and damage they bring.
It can be potent, but at the same time, I'm also looking at, there's Gilgamesh, Cerberus. I think both of those would be really strong last pick assets here. And as Bobby was talking about, it's not a guarantee that this Osiris is intended for layers, although we've seen him run it more often than not. It is relatively open-ended here. I like the idea, though, of having the strong initiation presence, at least, from the Emoja and the Danzaburo. Maybe try and force out some of those escapes from this front line, or excuse me, from this back line out of the Tartarus Titans. That way, Hell, Erlang can have a little bit more opportunity, at least, to just look for that rundown factor.
Camazotz is the hover, and I was thinking, if it is going to be Osiris solo, what pick would layers go to? And Camazotz came to mind, though Benji does play this in solo quite a bit as well, so still some ambiguity with these picks, but Camazotz the option, does not bring any CC.
Wildly different set, I expect, today than what we saw last Sunday when these two played each other.
You and I were casting that one as well.
Yeah,
right?
we cast the last Dragons Titans game together, and I expect this one to be a much more down-to-earth kind of set from them. But it is also worth noting, this is a team, the Titans team, pre-layers, that in the Phase 1 playoffs, round 1 in those quarterfinals, pushed the Dragons to the 5th game. They pushed them the entire way, and they were the only team to do so that weekend.
This is a very volatile Titans team, for better or for worse. Right now in the duo lane, Cyclone a little bit for worse. How about in the jungle, though? Layers is taking a good bit of damage as well. That Mannequin Scepter for Sanford Soccer doing some good work here early on, brawling out with that Camazotz.
And it looked like Benji was willing to make the rotation over there. That's actually a huge deal. Fine, okay, Sobek is so crucial, but now Layers is caught out.
Oh, so much damage from Sam, and they capitalized. The Jade Dragons on the board first. 1 minute and 15 seconds into the game, Gore. The writing was on the wall. Layers took a lot of damage. On the outside of the mid lane just a moment ago, you have to respect the pin. He doesn't have beads this early on. That was clean and simple here for the Jade Dragons.
And that's going to be a nice early lead,
Whoa,
especially if Cyclone gets taken down.
Cyclone's got to be careful here as well. There is an onslaught from the Jade Dragons, not only in the mid lane, but here on the left side of the map, and this is a perfect start.
Also, it's worth noting, Panda Cat has been one of the only real Danzaburo players. A couple of other hunters will pull him out every now and then, but he has not necessarily been the favorite, whereas Panda's been playing him. And look!
Gore, we don't get a chance to breathe here in this one, and Cyclone Spin, it's all your fault. You get out again. But my goodness, you're leaving it really, really close to death. Sanford Soccer's here on the left side of the map. Instead, it's going to be a look at the red buff, maybe the purple buff here for the Jade Dragons. Aurora now is where the Jade Dragons turn their eyes. Taunt in from Panda Cat immediately into the stun. There's a lot of damage here, but Aurora has the leap out. This continued pressure from the Jade Dragons is going to open up the door to a red buff invade. Maybe a little bit more. Layers leaps away. The red buff invade goes well, and Hurrywind will pick it up.
I mean, exactly what you want if you're the Dragons in this kind of scenario. You're getting tons of pressure, which you go back, listen to the desk, that's great for them. The Titans theoretically will be able to stand toe-to-toe for the late game onslaught from the Dragons.
Yep. I think it's such a multifaceted game here. The desk laid out how much of this game is largely going to be centered around Hurrywind, not only the healing, but some of the damage that Hell can provide. And we're going to see a little bit of it here as Paul being ganked by Sam Soccer. What is the damage there? That is absurd, and Paul clearly did not expect it. Didn't even bother using the beads. And that is clean and easy from Sam. No wards on the right side. And the Erlong Shen already impacting 2
shots,
kills.
making sure that the Titans are falling back and in an awkward position each and every time. I want to see Layers get active.
Doesn't it feel like that's the worst iteration of the Jade Dragons to play against the best if you're the Jade Dragons? When they're making plays like this, starting things up on the left side of the map, Panda Cat is going to get jumped on. 3-man taunt from Sam for Soccer. Is the damage there onto Aurora to at least pull 1 kill back? Layers has got something to say about it. Polar Bear Mike will rip Tide away. Neither Sam nor Mike healthy enough to go back in. There is a rotation from Hurrywind from the mid lane. But it looks like the Titans were able to get away with 1.
I mean,
what a riptide! Oh, and Sam for Soccer is right back in, and Polar Bear Mike makes the play, and the Tartarus Titans not able to get out full strength. Aurora ends up falling on the back.
I mean, going like Hell Yamoja would alone be obnoxious to go against. There's already so much healing, but now it's actually Benji who's caught out, maybe showcasing some of the healing that Sam has.
Yeah, the heal off the ult is good for Sam, but the taunt to start it off is what Benji's worried about right now. Final K blinks forward, so does Sam for Soccer, and the CC on the back end is there, but Layers here to save his solo laner's life, and for the time being, the Osiris will live on. Sam for Soccer waiting on those cooldowns to come back. The pin from range is good. And Sam for Soccer for 3 in the Jade Dragons. The jungler specifically off to a hot start.
This Erlong has been fitting like a glove in the jungle. And it's night and day. Layers has been a really, really big purveyor for the Titans in this early game over their last few sets. Obviously, not the last one versus the Dragons, but prior to that. And they've slowed that down.
Cyclone Spin has used his ult on Panda Cat here. That's an important hammer to dodge. But the rocket right back in will deliver pain to Aurora's doorstep. And who else is here but Sam for Soccer, making it happen all over the map. Doesn't have its ultimate just yet, but Aurora's got no chance anyway. Layers is rotating in, but so is Hurrywind. This is a winning fight for the time being for the Jade Dragons, and Hurrywind might be able to get the solo. We'll back off instead.
Hurry on his own is enough to make Layers second guess trying to get this gank. I mean, you're jumping into what would have been a 2v4. Hurry takes about half of Layers' health just in the process. I mean, this is a great amount of control for the Dragons. And the Titans are in an awkward position where most of what you have to do right now is sit back and farm. As time goes on, you still got Tiamat. You still got Tiamat minions. Benji hasn't been a huge part of these fights yet.
For Panda Cat, who does not have his ultimate. I was thinking maybe as Layers had made his way to the left side of the map. Polar Bear Mike maybe giving some chase.
What a
the Riptides have been great so far this game. Sam for Soccer did not have his ultimate. Layers did. It's about out of hell used. But now Sam has the opportunity to rotate here to the left side of the map. That ultimate very close to coming on back. Panda Cat will send some auto attacks. Aurora and Cyclone Spin's way, but it's just the purple buff right now that the Jade Dragons are worried about. But Panda Cat not worried enough about the damage that Cyclone Spin's got. And the Tartarus Titans get back a free one.
And now having to use the River's Rebuke for a disengage, I mean, that is a great fight for the Titans. Again, seems very small, but you get a good counter kill. Cyclone Spin was behind. You might even get Mike.
Mike needs the Riptide to survive. And will he survive is the big question. We'll take a quick pause here. One of the bigger weekends that he's had, you know, for a guy who's played a lot of championship events. It's going to be an important weekend for him in the same way that it's an important weekend for Paul as well, who, as we get back in the game, received a little bit of pressure from the Dragons, but it looks like the Tiamat will be just fine.
Well, now, actually, Aurora, you have to look at Layers. Layers has no mana, and they're a little bit deep with the conversion here. Hurrywind making a great cutoff route. They might be able to get a kill.
How much mana does Hurrywind have? Enough, probably, for a little damage onto Aurora. A little bit of it connects, and the stun from Mike won't even matter because Sam for Soccer's got the last bit of damage. 402 on the Erlong Shen. All 6 kills affected by the jungle of the Dragons.
I mean, that is pretty much exactly how you would want this game to go.
Or something at level 12 will open the door or keep things a little bit more open for Paul and Cyclone Spin and what they're able to build here. Sam for Soccer is playing with house money, so why not send a little bit of a bet Cyclone Spin's way? Aegis, yeah, what's it going to buy you but time? And time has run out on Cyclone Spin's life. Finally, the Izanami's been locked down after being taken low a whole bunch of times, and who's at the forefront core but Sam for Soccer?
And what was it you said last time? A key Dragons play? Hey, when are we going to look for that kill? Right around the time of Fury is maybe, say, respawning? I mean, Primal Fury is just around the corner, and you're potentially getting a tier 1 tower over here. You just killed off their carry. He's gone for another 20 seconds. I mean, Layers has had to sit back and watch and can't really get engaged the same way that Sam has been so far.
Kill on the left side of the map. Check. Fury has respawned. Check. Let's go for the Fury. Check. Now we got to secure the Fury because Aurora is here, but Aurora won't get the chance. Hurrywind just needs to survive in this moment. Your team has gotten a kill, but can you do one better? Layers nearly goes down after a excited attempt at a tier 1 tower dives. Final K is blinked forward. It's a dash away from Layers, and Final K maybe doesn't have the legs to continue to chase this one. So Layers will survive. Hurrywind did what he needed to do. The Jade Dragons did what they needed to do around the Fury, and the gold lead is now widened, and it's an FG call.
I was gonna say a win for Layers because he got the Aegis off Hurrywind, but that has completely collapsed in on itself. Aurora and Benji are still right here, though. The Dragons have to be careful.
Frenzy for Polar Bear Mike. Benji over the wall will not matter. Jade Dragons have taken down a 15-minute and 40-second Fire Giant, and the Tartarus Titans are reeling, and why not another Riptide for Polar Bear Mike? Benji will not survive, and the Jade Dragons have widened that lead even further.
But I like the way the rest of the team, look, they just got Fire Giant. You're not winning this fight. You have to get something on the map elsewhere. Where does Paul go? Gets a tier 1 in mid. What does Cyclone do? He gets a tier 1 in left, puts some pressure on the tier 2. They're going to lose this tier 2 no matter what in right. It's going to be about potentially Phoenix defenses. I mean, look how slow it is to kill this Titan off for the Dragons. I don't know that they have Phoenix Siege potential right now. I think they need a little bit more items to what the Dragons are picking up. It's not going to completely balance out because it's tier 1 for tier 2, but at the end of the day, it helps slow down a split push potential, and you have to watch now how much faster this tower is falling than the one on right. Yep. 2 Chin Size picked up. Sam and Panda just got it. They're absolutely going to be able to threaten this Phoenix.
Sam ideally is using that Chin Size to whittle down the health bar of somebody in the back line. Panicat, of course, can send some of that damage towards the Phoenix. We're not worried about the tier 2 in mid, say the Jade Dragons. We want to end this game quickly. Frenzy from Polar Bear Mike starts this one off as the Tartarus Titans get taunted on in by Sam for Soccer. Is the range damage there? Not just yet. A River's Rebuke from Mike will slow down the re-engage, but a pluck sets up a kill for Panicat, and the Jade Dragons have whittled down the health on that Phoenix a little bit, but they've gotten an early kill.
And now they've got a minion wave with them. They're going to be able to re-aggress easily. Layers needs to get active. He's just been hanging out on the side.
That's a big blink in from Fine. Okay, bye-bye Birdie. And the left side Phoenix falls. Hurrywind taken low as well. Will Hurrywind go down? Yes. But Panicat immediately answers back. Fine. Okay has gotten one as well. We are not 20 minutes into game number 1, and the Titan is a bit concerned. The health bar is not enough. With no healing from Hurrywind, Polar Bear Mike has got to carry a little extra weight in the healing department. Jade Dragon score, they're able to find a few kills, get a left side Phoenix.
Oh no.
Talking about setting up a win condition for the next Fire Giant that'll be up in a couple minutes. Yeah. For the second FG, because Gore, this game might just be over if the Jade Dragons are able to get this one cleanly.
This Fire Giant's either a comma in the long sentence of this game, or it's the exclamation point for the Dragons to win it, right? They are either going to get this and they are going to end the game, where the Titans are going to have something to say about it. It's still difficult at this point, though. Upgraded Ankh from Aurora is the tilting factor to me. He finally hit that level 12, had it for the last fight, but now that it's upgraded, can really help her re-engage around this FG.
Team at minions doing their work on the left. Aurora gets plucked in, but is able to leap on out. Polar Bear Mike takes a stun here as a little bit of damage reaches its way into the front line of the Tartarus Titans, but Fine Okay, somewhat low on HP as well, and that's maybe the biggest pushback we've seen from the Titans so far.
But you have to look at what they use. Paul did drop his ult. He's the only one that dropped his ult, but that means the Dragons still have all 5.
Oni Fire.
And it does make things a little more awkward. You highlighted, yeah, the Oni Fire minions, not just making it to the Phoenix, they're going to be in the Titan.
Fire Giant's half HP, so is Benji, who's been plucked into the backline.
What a wall!
Rebuke, but
what a passive!
Is up from Benji, but it won't matter. Polar Bear Mike, he's got the damage, and here come the Dragons. 2 down for the Tartarus Titans. Aurora has been left to the Wolves, and Panicat will clean up all 3 for the Jade Dragons. Sam for Soccer dueling it out with Paul, and that's no big deal for Sam, who nearly gets taken down on the back end. And Gore, the Jade Dragons start off this set with an exclamation point.
And I love the way they make this call. Look at them. They are stopping for the right Phoenix. I thought they were just going to run through. Fine OK seemed to have that note. He was just going to run in to the Titan. It's Layers versus the World, and trust me, the World wins this one 9 times out of 10, maybe even more than that. This was a clean game from start to finish from the Dragons, Dave. I mean, there's a good objective play, good kill focus. Every single target that they jumped into and jumped onto, they knew that they had a purpose for.
Fantastic performance through and through for Sam. And yeah, that early first blood, I think, kind of dictated the entire pacing of this game, because we or at least I know I talked a lot on the pregame on how much impact the early game could be for the Tartarus Titans, because they had so much outright burst damage, but none of that ever really becomes an issue when your Camazotz is dying at level 2 and it's the Erlong Shen who's collected the first blood bounty. So immediately Horiwin no longer under duress. He doesn't have anybody to pressure him, because this Camazotz now just has to focus on recuperating farm, and when you have your mid jungle focus on recovery, well, that leaves your side lanes open to being punished.
And that's exactly what happened. Side lanes really got to do what they wanted. Panda Cat was very far ahead. Fino-K on the Sobek had 0 threat, was the highest level in the game for quite some time. And for the first time in what feels like a long time, I can say that a jungler was top player damage for a long time in this game. Sam was doing that much work on this Erlong Shen. 5-0-9, I mean, we were a little bit worried about that pick. We said it couldn't get behind. It didn't, and Sam was able to do that type of stuff with it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. In that 3v3, there is so much healing that if you can get that lead, you are nigh unstoppable. Nobody can really slow you down. Even a little bit of poke from that Tiamat is irrelevant.
Working out for him in that situation as we are on to picks and bans for game number 2. The Jade Dragons, I would call that a statement victory with how clear-cut it was, and in particular the way it went down, that every lane was ahead, and in particular Sam did a ton of work in that game. And when your jungler in this meta can be that impactful, because not many junglers are going to be that impactful, it's going to be hard to beat you. And the Titans putting some respect on Sam for Soccer's name right away, leading off with an Erlong Shen ban.
And I don't know if it was necessarily the God. I think it was more of just a mistake from the Titans with how they played against that Erlang. I think if he's Osiris there, Gilg there, the same thing is going to happen. I think it's more of a playstyle thing on the Titans than this Erlang ban. But maybe they thought it was a little bit different. Maybe the CC damaged a little bit too much for them.
No, Bobby, surely I didn't make a mistake. It was that he was Erlong, you know? Like, what am I supposed to do against that pick? Saving the excuses there maybe a little bit. But the Titans go back to this Artemis. This was banned by the Jade Dragons the last time around, but Jade was in the first pick position in that game. And despite the loss, Paul will not get his hands on Tiamat this time around.
No, it seems as though the Jade Dragons recognize that Tiamat definitely still a very strong mid lane factor. Don't really want to allow any sort of opportunities, I think, for a mid-late game takeover, because I think had it not been for the Hell, it would have maybe seemed a little bit closer in some instances, but the general rule of thumb whenever you're dealing with a healer composition is you never even want to be even. You need to always be ahead, otherwise you're in trouble. And for the Tartarus Titans, I think that this last ban is probably the more impactful one than the Erlong. It's taking out that Yamoja, taking away the capability there, I think, for Mike to be able to influence the dual lane as heavily as he did in Game 1.
Bobby, are you surprised the Titans banned Yamoja with their first pick?
I mean, it is slightly surprising. Maybe they're looking for a better, maybe one-for-one trade. Yamoja maybe is just something that they don't feel like they piloted as well. I still think it's surprising Yamoja gets through any games. I think that goddess should be just a permaban. She does way too much in entire portions of the game. Just minute 0 to minute 35. She's the most impactful god in the game, and I think we should probably not see her for the rest of this playoffs.
I've got a feeling we will, but I don't disagree with you. That's where we're at now. As the Dragons have a couple options. I mean, Osiris and Gilgamesh both open. Serket, Kabrak, and Cerberus, all 3 banned by the Titans last time. None banned this time. So a big pivot in terms of prioritization in their pick ban phase. And now Osiris open, but so are some other things here, Bobby.
I think the biggest thing you touched on was the Kabrakan. It was first banned by the Titans in the first game. So it's either high priority from this Jade Dragons team and something that maybe Final look to pick up early. It's also something that they could look to try to trade with. Maybe the Jades play it and the Titans don't. The Odin pick, though, obviously always a safe pick.
Yeah, and I think this gives you some insurance against Hell, right? That now the Dragons are disincentivized to pick that god, whereas it's still an option for the Titans.
Even Hell, Giannis, there's Morgan Le Fay. I think that those are three mages that we've definitely seen hurry pilot in the past, and all three of them can definitely have some struggles when trying to deal with the Odin. And the Odin as well, kind of like an Osiris first pick, it's very vague. You don't actually know if it's intended for solo. There is some room, I think, for a flex pick opportunity here, but I like the response from the Jade Dragons to take away that Osiris. I do think that if they'd left it open, there would have been an opportunity potentially for the Titans to take it for jungle, so having that removed might make it a little bit easier as far as just trying to... It's seeming like the mentality for the Jade Dragons, they've been one of the few teams that will play into Odin and just go all damage to deal with it.
Hey, I mean, I said they're discouraged from picking the Hell, but I didn't say they weren't allowed to, and the Jade Dragons decide that they will anyways. Hell up against Odin, tough, but more manageable than it used to be, right? At least you can break down those walls with some auto attacks. Maybe we see Fafnir, Izanami, Rom, gods that are really good at knocking off those pips of the Odin cage, something along those lines, but certainly a Phantom, I assume, in the works here for the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, it does not feel good playing Hell into Odin without the Phantom. Even if you can kill the cage in most scenarios, just one cage late game where Hell can't get out of it quick enough and she's dead and the game's over. So I think you kind of need that Phantom.
It's Rom, the selection for Cyclone Spin this time. The Izanami got pretty far behind in game one, so they take a different selection for Cyclone Spin this time. And the Titans go Jade Dragon-esque with the Soul. I believe we saw Paul play it once or twice this phase, and I believe we laughed about Paul's build at some point because it was a little askew. And when I say we, I'm talking about me and the other Titans players during their media day, if I remember correctly. We're laughing a little bit about that build. So maybe he's learned his lesson in that regard. But Soul, this early, I mean, in what world do the Jade Dragons assume Paul is going back to Soul? Is this really what they needed in this spot?
Soul just introduces a lot of objective shred, especially when paired alongside of the ROM. And as far as finding follow-up damage for that Odin cage, it is a little bit easier, I think, for that Supernova to take up at least one segment of that cage. I wouldn't really depend too much on the ROM for anything other than, like, you know, an Astral Barrage here and there. But I think mostly it's just the fact, too, that Soul introduces a lot of early game fight. And if we're going to see some level 2 action between these two teams in mid-jungle, then maybe it is a little bit more relevant for Paul to have a god that can actually box it out as opposed to the Tiamat where, like Bobby said, you have to be a little bit more respective in terms of where your power spikes are at.
Bobby, your thoughts on this Soul pickup?
Yeah, really the only thing I can think of is they need this 2v2 to not be so bad that they just prioritize the Soul because she does have a very good level 2. It's one of the few mages that can box up against that Hell and actually trade well with her. So yeah, I guess that's just what they're planning on picking out of the mid lane. It gives them a little bit of objective shred also, but definitely not what I was expecting from Paul.
Me either. And I'm a little surprised we don't see a Fafnir ban here yet from the Titans, though they do have the first pick coming out of this ban phase. I don't think you can afford to give Fafnir to this draft because then you just start losing objectives. You already have an attack speed stim for the team with that Odin, something that we don't really talk about very much when it comes to that god, but he does give that AoE attack speed buff with that 3. You add in a Fafnir, I feel like your objectives are all in serious trouble. So I'd be very surprised if the Dragons weren't intending on picking Fafnir in this spot that they didn't at least ban it. And they don't intend on picking it. It's RDO instead, bringing some flexibility to this draft, Bobby. We don't know where this Osiris or RDO are going yet.
Yeah, I guess it's just to keep that like surprise factor up. There's Osiris can play multiple roles, RDO can play multiple roles. It's just, I guess, to get the counter pick or priority picks in multiple different roles. Yeah, the Fafnir hasn't been too prioritized today. It's been kind of picked towards the bottom or maybe banned in the second half. And we saw a lot of priority in that during the regular season.
Would you have liked Fafnir more than Khepri in this spot?
I think the Khepri's fine. Like you said, you have so much objective spread. What's the difference between killing it in 6 and 7 seconds? There's really no difference. But having that peel for the Khepri on the back end or extra kill potential with Khepri's 2 and his pull 3 combo, I like the Khepri pick actually a lot.
Fair enough.
And the Ratatoskr kind of rounds it off a little bit better as well because there is a lot of single target focus, at least from this Jade Dragons composition. Khepri definitely one of the better supports for kind of negating that, but more importantly, I think it's just the knockup feature from that through the Cosmos, something that is going to have not only that level 2 engagement with the Soul, but it's great setup for an Astral Barrage. It's great setup for that Stellar Burst Supernova combination.
Push that lead. different look in the jungle this game. Something, I'm not going to say much more impactful, but with the potential of this Ratatosker, needs to be a big game from Layers.
I actually think it has a lot to say early on as well, and that's what I'm really looking forward to from Layers, because like you said, I mean, we got a ton of action in the first, 3 minutes? Despite there only being 1 kill that had happened, there was a ton. Speaking of which, hurry. Maybe playing the wrong game here. Gets it a little too close. But it was exactly this pace in game 1 too, right? Everybody seems to be getting low. There's pressure in the duo. There's pressure in mid. There's pressure everywhere.
And Sanford Soccer's off to the races yet again. A lot of that pressure from Sam in game 1 funneled to this left side of the map. Cyclone Spin only died once in that onslaught of a few minutes.
Wall.
Polar Bear Mike was making a lot of plays on that Yamoja, and the Ymir, I think, carries somewhat similar expectations for PBM. Paul has taken a lot of damage here, and Hurrywind, with his last bit of mana, sends some range damage Paul's way, and Gord's another first blood for the Jade Dragons in the mid 2v2.
Maybe I gave him too much of a window. I said 2 to 3 levels. I wasn't necessarily worried about that for a little
You
bit.
meant 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, not even, right? 2 to 3 seconds? 2 to 3 skirmishes in this game. Yeah, Sam, I think it is a very important note to say that those slows are going to be very, very helpful. And already it's set up his team. He wasn't even over here on left, and yet they still are able to get aggressive onto a purple.
Or picking it away. Paul is really good at hell. So if you have a run-back performance here from the Jade Dragons, and again, we're far away from that, but you're already at 1,000 gold in game 2 for the Jade Dragons. Something you got to consider. Aurora gets slowed on down. Horrific Emblem used by Polar Bear Mike. The last bit of mana used to slow down Aurora, and there's a taunt back in from Panda Cat as well, and Sanford Soccer has rotated to the left side of the map. Easy as you like. And Sanford Soccer on this Osiris has showed no signs of slowing down.
You know, maybe it's just recency bias, but we spent so long talking about the Titans and the jungle specifically. Actually, speaking of which, Layers is up.
Can the stun hit? Yes, it can onto both. Spin to win, baby. Layers answers back, and the Tartarus Titans at least
But he has
able
no
to
mana.
get 1 kill in return. You're right, Gore. On this Ratatosker. He'll pay the iron price for his kill, and Polar Bear Mike is the one in range to collect.
Sam has ult. I mean, they could theoretically... Look, PBM's low. PBM has no mana. But if they wanted to, they might have been able to stick it to Cyclone Spin as well, just to showcase what they have. And if that Disapparate isn't there, Herwin might be showing Paul, again, a little bit more of that hell damage. Right now, just focused on the map play a little bit better. And they're getting kills to boot, right? I mean, if you're getting invades that are clean, Mike didn't even get the last one, yet they still have been able to pull a lot of that into their favor.
And Gore, Greater Scorpion going down might be impactful for something I'll get into here in a minute. A 2v2 breaks out in left. Short device does a whole lot of damage. And Panda Cat able to detonate that Scarab's Blessing. Sanford Soccer will blink on through, and the last bit of damage connects for the Jade Dragons jungler. Cyclone Spin, rather, sends some snipes on in. Can Layers make a difference?
Well, he's going to come crashing down onto Sam, but if there's 4 members of the Dragons here, what are you going to do against
Sanford
them?
Soccer's just going to walk on away. Lord of the Afterlife gets used, but that is an easy price to pay for the Jade Dragons. A clean, executed fight. And the Jade Dragons will find
Still
one.
has his beats, has been hovering around no mana. Yeah, we'll back here. And I think that's actually the greatest fault of them, is that they've just been so far pressured out in duo, they can't really fight.
The Tartarus Titans are fully alive here, though. Nobody's had to die yet for the Jade Dragons to take this one down. Instead, it's just good old-fashioned pressure for the Jade Dragons. And a 7, nearly 8-minute Gold Fury goes to the Dragons.
Again, cut the bleeding, stem the bleeding. They'll be just fine to take some late game fights.
Here's the bad news for Benji. He's a level behind. We'll see what happens here with Panda Cat as the rocket connects for a little damage onto Cyclone Spin, doing his best to dodge out the autos. He avoids a lot of damage. If Panda Cat had hit everything there, it's likely 1 dead Cyclone Spin. Is Panda Cat going in? No, he's not. Just back into lane. But Cyclone Spin has got to leave, and nonetheless, that since level like 3.
And this
feels like.
RDO has been oppressive, and when I look at a lot of, not just the disengages, you got a cripple field that's going to be very helpful, but getting into the backline, controlling the Titans, is going to be easy.
That's a good wall from Mike to keep Aurora right where he is, but Aurora's able to dash on away. Paul has taken a lot of damage, but the Scarab's Blessing is there. Final K will heal on up. It's a tower shot connected onto the RDO. Benji drops the cage, but the Jade Dragons waltz on forward nonetheless. And the Tartarus Titans able to slow down the initial pressure from the Jade Dragons at least.
I mean, they dropped 4 ults there, and Sam had used his, and I think that's it overall. Like, I mean, not a really big fight for the Dragons. They weren't really concerned about
That's
it.
a Pyro. Yeah, page 2 of the playbook is the same thing as page 1, but replace Gold
Just
Fury with
on the other side of the
Pyromancer.
map.
Right. So Pyromancer will go to the Jade Dragons here. A potential for a blue buff invade was there if it
More
were
often, so Benji will have opportunities for great cages.
Yep.
But you're going to have to hit them consistently, and if they get 1 or 2 Phantoms, there's nothing to do.
Cyclone Spin's just got to choose who he dives to at this point, but he might not get much of a choice. Up into the sky, he'll go for his ultimate. Sanford Soccer has got the last bit of damage.
The mannequin.
And Cyclone Spin will make it 5-1 for the Jade Dragons.
Every set they play, or they're going to leave their just blood, sweat, and tears out on the play, or on the field, whether or not they win. And then they get to Worlds and they lose.
Yep.
They win both playoffs last year, and they get to Worlds and they lose. Why win the regular season? Why win and focus so hard when you can do this at playoffs?
Paul's got no mana, but he's got beads and Aegis. Layers has got his ult. So Paul will survive, Layers will survive, but the Jade Dragons pushing this lead on the left side of the jungle. The Tartarus Titans, a very capable team. As much praise as we are heaping on the Jade Dragons, we have to give some to the Titans. On to a Game 5, could be the Titans.
And it's worth noting, right? I'm going to highlight all of this. 7,000 gold, 16 minutes in. That's typically what you're supposed to do. I'm sorry I'm taking that from you. Because
No, please do.
It really does lean into this, which is the fact that, depending on how this Layers kill could potentially go...
There's a stun maybe from Sanford Soccer. Layers
He's so low!
Nearly got taken down by Mike over the wall. Benji had to use the cage here. Paul's rotating into this fight. Does not have the ultimate, but Polar Bear Mike might be the sacrifice here. Shards of Ice and then a double freeze. Is that going to buy time for the Jade Dragons to get in? No, it's not. They've called off the dogs. And the Jade Dragons will at least get Pyro in exchange for their support. With their chances. A 4-man rotation from the Titans on right. If the Jade Dragons loop in behind here, could be a good fight that catches the Tartarus Titans off guard. Gold Fury is about to spawn, though. You have to be careful. This Titans team, despite being pretty far behind, could sneak away an FG if they were feeling gutsy enough to make that call. The wraparound is occurring. PBM leading the charge. Hurrywind in behind alongside Pandacat. Both carries will make their way on in. Cyclone Spin rolls away. Aurora's going to eat this rocket. A Scarab's Blessing might have to get used for himself. What's Layers going to do here? You're going to find the carries. You're going to find the targets. He's found Pandacat in the back. The snipes from Cyclone Spin have gotten a little damage, but Benji's going to be the one to get the kill to trade things back here. Final K controlling the back line of this fight, but Cyclone Spin, he's got plenty of health, but it's being turned around, and Polar Bear Mike answers.
And they're going to keep getting aggressive, but they've got some great kills.
Oh, big freeze from PBM, and the chase goes on. Paul disapparates right on out. Could there be a slow? Of course there is. It's PBM. He'll hit those. Hurrywind's got the rest of the damage onto Paul. The Jade Dragons lose a couple, but they answer back with 3.
You lost Pandacat, though. Fire Giant probably dashed. The tower maybe dashed, but they don't seem to care about those. They're getting aggressive. They're looking for more blood.
Why wouldn't you when Hurrywind's full HP?
Oh my God.
He's got the ability to put Benji down. Hurrywind on a killing spree, and the Jade Dragons get all but a roar.
I mean, they're just running at them at that point. I would argue the great thing for the Titans is because they kill off Pandacat and Sam, they slow that game down. You get those 4 kills and you have either of those members up, that Fire Giant's gone.
Part of this game. PBM, I don't think we gave enough love to on that Yamoja, and this Ymir as well here in Game 2.
Oh, yeah.
Looking immaculate. Chef's kiss for PBM on this Ymir.
I was going to highlight his relics, but they're both back up. They're going to have plenty of effect in this fight.
A double root, though, from Aurora keeps things interesting here. Layers has the ability to knock down some of this health. Look at the snipes from Cyclone Spin. They've caught the perfect target. Hurrywind, the first sacrifice from the Jade Dragons. Pandacat in with the rocket, though, could catch out Benji, who gets stunned on up. The auto's got a hit on the right, but there's a stun there. Benji lives, and the Scarab's Blessing will get proc. The Tartarus Titans, they strike some pay dirt here in Game 2.
I mean, this is exactly what you need. You've got the carries, you've got the damage, and you've got, finally, Aurora hitting somebody that's not him with his ult, although in the last fight, still helped prolong that. And that is the reason you needed to rush this game. You needed your control, a 7,000 gold lead that's still in your favor if you're the Dragons, to turn into something.
What can Final K do here? Not much. If he ends up dying off, both carries still back on the FG. A stun from Benji will set up the D side. The Tartarus Titans on the brink have turned the game around. They'll be in the pit as far as the gold differential goes, but they're in the Fire Giant pit, getting the buff for 4 out of 5.
I mean, you had such a wild amount of control here if you were the Dragons, but never enough to turn it into something as substantial in the map as they did in game number 1.
That snowball starts to build up some steam downhill.
And it was the perfect timing. They were still waiting for the Aegis, the beads to come up. They didn't have any of the relics for Pandacat or Hurry. And so, like, it was just like the perfect storm for the Titans to be able to win it. And now, not only are they in a good position, they could potentially win the game if they barrel down this fight well enough.
Jade Dragons might put up a soft defense here. Despite FG, the Jade Dragons still 3,000 gold in the lead, so you might scrap back any sort of control that you've got here if you're the Jade Dragons. Mike will throw up his wall. for a rare bit of damage blocking instead of engaging. All this damage connecting, though, from the Tartarus Titans means the Jade Dragons will turn tail and head on back. You've got 2 minutes left on the FG push if you're the Tartarus Titans, and you've got 2 Tier 2 towers.
For this hell. Then you're not really stressed about it, at least overall. You're not going to force Paul or force Benji to go into items that maybe would be better off somewhere else in order to get the power. But this is actually something that's really big to me from the Dragons. They did this on left, and they're doing it here in mid. They're not trying to save this tier 2. It's going to be gone. There's a whole team with Fire Giant on the other side. You're not saving the tier 2.
Waste time.
But you are burning the clock, exactly. There's only a minute left now for this Fire Giant, and the Titans aren't really any closer to getting a Phoenix. This is a great play from the Dragons to slow them down and make them pump the brakes. But
Could
it is
be
worth noting
more.
that the gold is now equal.
Is it more, though, from the Jade Dragons than just pumping the brakes? The wall from Polar Bear Mike
Layers
separates
up.
out this fight. Layers has got a lot of damage. in
Hurry.
that build. That's the same play. Run on back. The Tartarus Titans gun down Hurrywin for the first kill of this team fight. Panicat, the next to go down as well. Final K was the last alive last time, but he'll be the third to die this time around. The Tartarus Titans execute the same play twice. And Gore, you could be looking at a Phoenix, maybe the game.
I mean, yeah, they've got 40 seconds with most of the carries dead. Sam and Mike versus the world. Look, a good freeze and a good Osiris can do a lot, but kill 5 members? That's a tall order.
The Tartarus Titans have come to play, and now the Jade Dragons are going to have to make a miracle happen in Game 1. Cyclone Spin gets taken low, but he's got Scarab's Blessing, and it won't matter. Sanford Soccer is the last alive for the Jade Dragons. Deicide, Game 2 to the Titans.
I mean, they just, look, you're messing around with the team. There's a 7,000 gold lead at one point for the Dragons. They're up 5-1 in the kills. They're controlling every neutral objective.
It's a huge turnaround momentum swing there for the Tartarus Titans because the early game, again, kind of dictated by some early flaws out of the Tartarus Titans positioning. Paul gets caught out a little bit too far up in mid lane and immediately looking at Hurrywin. Hell, first blood. You think that it's over from that point on if you base it off how game 1 went, but the carries not having relics, trying to pull this Fire Giant objective, and it was just punish and a great team fight that essentially was capitalized on by the Tartarus Titans.
And then caught outside their Phoenixes here on this fight for, I'm not really sure what reason that they're there instead of sitting on the Phoenixes. I mean, this is, when the Jade Dragons have lost in playoff events at things like the World Championships, it's games a lot like this the majority of the time, right, where they are dominant. I mean, they were up 5,000 gold at like 11 minutes. That doesn't happen. And then to lose a game like that when you've got a hell composition, nearly unheard of. Very surprised to see that game go this way. But got to give credit where it's due to the Tartarus Titans sticking in it and waiting to make a punish and hoping that, you know, when you're at that point, you know that the enemy team has to make a mistake. But the Jade Dragons made a mistake, and then it's saying something to be there to punish it. Bobby, that's something that your team is known pretty well for doing is don't give me that look. Yeah, you fall behind every once in a while, but you're resilient, you know? You're coming back.
You're pointing out you're behind every game.
Well, no, I mean, not necessarily that, but what kind of goes into a comeback of this type of magnitude?
I mean, it's just looking to take fights that are guaranteed or near guaranteed.
Anti-heal.
But I mean, yeah, like you said, it won, so it's got to be at least a good build, right?
Yeah, gotta be. That's how it works. Let's see what happens now in Game 3, picks and bans. We are knotted up at 1 apiece. The Tartarus Titans back in first pick position, and that's noteworthy because the Jade Dragons won their game in first pick, and after losing have chosen to go back to that second pick position. This is where a lot less power was on the board, so to speak. Remember, the Titans had some pretty off-kilter bans whenever they were in the second pick position, but this time, this is crazy, right? They banned Cabrakan first overall, game 1, lose. Game 2, they win, don't ban Cabrakan until the second phase, and now in Cabrakan not picked, of course, as we saw, and now they go, oh yeah, we better ban that Cabrakan still. Yeah, why?
Titans are just really trying to look out, I think, for the stuff that Cabrakan can limit. And as far as their god pick choices are concerned, they have been running some gods that I think could be opposed pretty heavily by this Cabrakan. And it's also just one of those instances where I think it does kind of free up the pick bans as well, just in terms of if you're going to be in this first pick position, well, now the Jade Dragons have to make an even bigger decision, I think, in terms of who they ban initially in comparison to the Titans, where because of that Cabrakan ban, I don't want to call it a throwaway ban by any means, but it's just something very strong is more likely to get let through
Yeah.
if you're going to expend a ban onto a Kraken.
And Soul, which they just played, which the Jade Dragons clearly don't value that highly, gets banned away as well. The Titans are playing like 6D chess. I can't even comprehend where they're coming from.
The only thing I can think is that they're planning on picking this Hell very early.
Sure.
Because that Kabrakan plays very well into the Hell. They ban the Soul, which is something that matches Hell's pressure.
Yep.
There it is.
Pick Hell. Yamoja open, by the way. So they leave the Yamoja on the table. They leave Osiris on the table. Kind of as expected there, like I suppose. And give up the Hell, or take the Hell, I should say. So the Dragons here, this has just got to be Yamoja Osiris, right? Like,
100%.
no reason to stray from that.
You don't want to leave the Osiris through for another phase because of how good it is against the Hell and how pretty good it is against the Emoja also. So I think you just guarantee the Osiris here, and then you have a good, easy setup comp against this Hell and good dive against her.
Yeah, I like it for here for the Dragons.
Gilgamesh is also still up for grabs, though, for the Titans, and I do think that there is some value here, a little bit more so even, for the Gilgamesh in comparison to the Osiris, because you have to assume Jade Dragons are going to want that Osiris for themselves, and if Tartarus Titans choose to respond with the Gilgamesh, I think that Winds of Shamash would be great, actually, at kind of preventing that Osiris from having a really strong collapse on this Hell with that River's Rebuke.
Worth noting that been picked 4 times so far today. Osiris 0-4. Picked twice, I think, by the Warriors in a tough matchup, but still worth noting because it's 0-2 in this series so far as well. Erlong Shen was banned by the Titans in game number 2, piloted by Sam in game number 1, picked in the exact same spot that Sam picked it for the Jade Dragons in game 1, now in Layer's hands for game number 3. Erlong, good, but not so much against Emoja.
I think it's just got to be they are heavily prioritizing this 2v2.
Yeah.
Every single game, each 2v2 has either been strong or just at least to try to avoid the fight like the Kama and Tia was. So I think at this point, a little meta has came about that if you don't win this 2v2, you think you are at a massive disadvantage. So you'll be seeing this Hell, Erlang, Osiris picked early for that 2v2.
And it's good 2v2. Hell, Erlong Shen, very, very strong. We'll see if that can change the way that has gone in the early stages so far in this set, because like I mentioned, Jade Dragons have gotten a kill at level 2 or level 3 in both games now through the first 2. So it's a Kepri ban by the Jade Dragons. Makes sense. That was a pick that ended up playing very, very well for Aurora last time around. And now you're looking at mid laners because Heroine's Hell, that was his pick the last 2 games, taken away this time by Paul. Morgan Le Fay, Giannis still on the table. Have to imagine that's where the Titans are going to go with their next ban, if they're looking to ban out Hurry.
I think the Janus may not even get picked because of how weak his 2v2 actually is. They might look to go elsewhere, somewhere that can actually fight in that 2v2 or maybe get onto the Hell in that mid game. I'm thinking, I don't know exactly what Hurry's god pool is after most of these gods are gone and then Janus, but like something like a Zhong, if it's something he plays, actually can fight in that 2v2 pretty decently and dive the Hell late game.
I'm actually starting to wonder if Gilgamesh is even a concern between these two teams, because as far as Sanford Soccer is concerned, I mean, we've been seeing the Osiris, we've been seeing the Erlong. I'm definitely anticipating that we're going to see a lot more prevalence placed into this Erlong Shen moving forward. The Poseidon, however, is a really interesting pickup here because you have the Whirlpool, which I think can be useful against the likes of an Erlong, a Rom. Hell, kind of hit or miss because she has that movement speed to get out before the cripple ever actually has a chance to apply. But Kraken is just such a fickle ultimate to fight around.
It is. It's feast and famine. Those are the only 2 options. You either get a big one or you feel like you didn't get much value out of it. But among Poseidon players, Herwind one of the most storied in the league and very, very comfortable on that pick. I kind of like it here for the Dragons. Gives you some of that zone control. His level 2 is crazy in comparison to a lot of other mages, whether you want him to wave clear or fight. And Hell can heal unless I one-shot her with a Kraken. It puts pressure on her to have to go beat Xandagus. I kind of like the pick.
I mean, a lot of the Titans comp struggles against the Poseidon. Rama can't really roll out of it. He can't get up into the air, so you're almost always forcing Aegis if you can get onto him. Same with Fenrir. He's not really going to be doing much other than being able to ult the Kraken. Serb, like another one, he's going to have to end up ulting it and take the stun after because he won't be able to use his movement speed to get out of it, or his movement ability to get out of it. That Poseidon pick might be a really good pick because that 2v2 also is super strong.
And in game 4, the Jade Dragons start off the first half of game 2, Gore, the exact same way they did game 1. Except the Titans dove on Hurrywind and then dove on Hurrywind,
and then dove on
Hurrywind, and then the game was over, and the Tartarus Titans were able to turn around like a 7,000 gold lead. And so you can't count this team out. And Hurrywind, tired of being dove on, doesn't necessarily draft more mobility for himself, but maybe something that can turn around some of that damage in this Poseidon.
I actually think it's interesting. So Poseidon, we don't see him a lot. If you're looking at this, first off, Benji almost gets killed off right there, and that's good pressure for Finoke to start things off. Also worth noting that Osiris typically in the jungle in the solo lane, which is maybe something to come back to. But it is this Poseidon who, as you mentioned, maybe not super mobile, has some decent self-peel. He's only been played twice this year, so if you're looking at it and you're like, man, when have we seen Poseidon? It's not been a lot, so it makes sense to be excited for it. But one of those 2 games was Hurrywind, and the Dragons playing it, and they won that game obnoxiously good, as that original Erlang game was for them. But I also think it's essential here. I mean, you've got anti-heal from the Osiris, you've got anti-heal now from Sam, and that's going to be helpful versus Paul trying to shut down and control his health.
Sanford Soccer taunts layers on in, and this is something the Des talked about. The 2v2 is strong, but it's also strong for the Titans. And how many times have we seen a Hell at the forefront of first blood here in this set, Gore? I'd argue all 3 games, and now it's Paul grabbing first blood on the Hell for the Titans.
And Mike are also the ones who have been kind of stamping their names on this, and that Fenrir is scary.
Yep, he is. And Aurora has Ragnarok, Hurrywind has beads. So can Aurora strip away a set of beads? Yes, Hurrywind has used them, but Aurora still has the ultimate. Kraken used by Hurrywind up in the sky. Taunt back from layers, won't connect on a save for Soccer, but Aurora gets it done all on his own in the back, and Hurrywind down for the 2nd time in Game 3.
And they did pretty much everything that you could to stop Aurora there. The beads came out, but a little too early. That's 2 times in 2 days now. If you were watching the SCC yesterday, I believe we saw that happen as well, where it's just a little bit of patience goes a long way on a Fenrir.
To keep this pace going in Game 3.
And builds are really where I'm keeping my eyes, not just the sledge and watching where Aurora goes, which feels like and looks like it's going to be the Thieves next, but also Paul, who's gone for the Doom Orb, as well as Hurry.
Or maybe it's Polar Bear Mike that's going to get jumped on this time in the Lion's Den, and Polar Bear Mike will not escape, and it's layers on the board now, and the Erlang Shen finally gets his just desserts. 101.
Collectively, maybe 10 minutes total of the Titans being in the lead so far this set.
You're right.
And so I think this is a good showcase for them. It's just whether or not they can keep that pressure up. Pyromancer comes to my mind in a few seconds.
What happens to Layers here? Sanford Soccer blinks on him, sends him right back, but Layers walks away. Great Rivers Rebuke from Poor Bear Mike, but Layers sends out the taunt. Will the heal come out in time? No, it won't. Sanford Soccer gets the Jade Dragons on the board early. Now for an answer back, Aurora uses the beads underneath the tower, and Panda Cat's rotated on through to the 1v1 on the left side of the map, and the Jade Dragons with a 1-2 punch mid and left. Beads and the ultimate.
Speaking of Rocket.
And I imagine we're going to get a look at that here.
This is what you get to do. I mean, it is about as far, I want to say, like, forward. You just go in and... Look, part of that is a lot of damage.
Cyclone's
I think
been able to get up into the ult. Maybe Cyclone
Spin turns it around.
Turns that around. Gets a kill onto Panda Cat. Unfortunately, Cyclone Spin without beads is going to get dove on here. The snipe will happen this time, but the DOT from Sanford Soccer will clean up that kill. What can Aurora? What can Layers get done here? Can you block the rocket? Yes, you can. Ragnarok will seal Panda Cat's fate in as well. And Paul the one who picks it up. Sanford Soccer trying to leap away. Watch out. Kraken doesn't do much to Layers.
In fact, it feels like it ends up doing nothing. The heal pops through. Layers wants to fight.
It's a great Rivers Rebuke from Polar Bear Mike to keep the Titans where they are, but Layers
so low.
Will walk on away. A roar has now left back in. Sanford Soccer down. Benji's here as well. It started off great for the Dragons, but it's going to end in disaster.
I mean, what a turnaround. And look, Aurora just gets to hang out in the jungle, more than happy for that to go the way that it did. So all it takes is a good engage from the Titans. They could potentially at least burn some beads, maybe find a kill.
Panda Cat's doing a lot of work here. Panda Cat is 2 levels up over Cyclone Spin going into this fight. So bad in one lane for the Jade Dragons, great on another side of the map. Can Panda Cat get involved? Can Panda Cat carry a lot of the weight here? Aurora is alone in the back, but has not gotten taken down. The Rivers Rebuke will separate out this fight. Kraken gone. Kraken gets nothing for the Jade Dragons, and the Tartarus Titans don't want to jump in just yet. Instead, it's Benji being taunted back.
They're going to get the slowdown, but you can see not a lot of commitment from the Dragons. They do burn a lot of ults. If that Rivers Rebuke locks down Aurora, that's a kill, and the Dragons are starting to run forward. That's a great play for the Titans to get out of there, but they're still aggressing onto the Primal.
No Kraken, so steal potential limited
Much lower.
for the Jade Dragons. Primal Fury going quickly for the Tartarus Titans. Polar Bear Mike, Panda Cat in range. Taunt from Layers will secure the Tartarus Titans, the Primal Fury, and a kill onto PBM.
I mean,
Mainly
mainly
just-
Yamoja comes into me. I think Serket's going to be solid. We've seen what Sam's trying to do. FineOK as well joining these fights. Osiris is a top pick for a reason. But I think PBM is the key for this team.
Hurrywind's back in base. If the Tartarus Titans can do this quickly, there is virtually no steal potential from the Jade Dragons. And yeah, the Tartarus Titans are doing this one quickly. The Fire Giant lets out a roar, and only the Jade Dragons are the ones outside of the pit to hear it. Breastplate of Valor with a Doom Orb and a Soul Reaver on either side of that build, and then some damage with the artifact a bit later on. You're going to have to dive onto this hell and then some.
He also, hasn't died, so dive onto this hell and then some. Get him out of there. Last time around, that's what helped the Titans beat the Dragons. Hurrywind was dying. You're not going to use Danza to dive all 5 of them. You don't have,
the same
a
range.
Ratatosker. You don't have the Rom Snipes. And I don't know if they actually have the capabilities to deal with Paul.
And Hurrywin
Look at that! Oh my
Hurrywin
God!
just getting the treatment again. Gets the snipes again. And then Aurora walks on in, picks up Hurrywin, who had to use beads and Aegis, waits for him to time out. And Aurora took 0 damage on his way into that one. All of the range and the ability to take the mid laner out of the fight is the Tartarus Titans, and they are making it work. Polar Bear Mike will use the ultimate here, and that's going to slow down this Phoenix Siege a little bit, but who cares, says the Tartarus Titans. Draugr buff wearing off here, maybe shortly, but I don't think it's delaying the Tartarus Titans all that much. Mid lane Phoenix gone, and Hurrywin 0-4.
Where the hell hasn't been the like pinpoint, hey, that's what we need to stop. I think I would ban away this ROM if I get the opportunity to try to control Cyclone Spin a little bit. Because, look, Hurry's not on hell this time. He's not getting it done the same way.
Yeah, Fire Giant's going to go down here for the Tartarus Titans. You know what's funny? Cyclone Spin has the least amount of damage in the game right now with 3,000. I think every bit of that is from
all of
his
it's on
ultimate.
Hurry.
I think all of it is from Cyclone Spin's ultimate on Hurrywin, because Cyclone Spin uses the ult, deletes Hurry, and then by the time he crashes down, there's no one left to auto-attack. Cyclone Spin has the least amount of damage into this game, but it's all that matters. Here he goes, up to the sky. Wonder who his target's going to be. It's the backline. Did not one-shot anyone this time. Hurrywind gobbles up Aurora with the Kraken, and the Jade Dragon shows signs of life, and FineOK presses down on the gas pedal with the Lord of the Afterlife. Cyclone Spin gets some auto-attack damage in there, and FineOK ends up going down.
Went from 3,000 to now 5,300. He's going to be able to get aggressive into this. You let him get into the auto-attack range, and it's going to look great. But now, look, Layers is going for the zone.
Oh, he's rolling forward, and he is whittling down the health bar of Sanford Soccer and Polar Bear Mike. And the Tartarus Titans, they want more. They want game 2. They want to push us into a game 4 with a 1-game advantage. And the Jade Dragons are just watching it happen. The Titan loses a little bit of health. Right side Phoenix still up. Looks like that might be what the Tartarus Titans came for.
I was a little worried for him. Mid Phoenix is about to respawn as well. I think the Titans are going to pump the brakes, wait a little bit, 2 seconds before Aurora's even respawned, let alone before he can join the fight. And FineOK has a little bit longer, but FineOK is going to spawn right there, like 10 feet away from where the Titans are.
And you can see Cyclone Spin trapped in the cripple field, and that's where this ROM can get put down. Sanford Soccer blinks on and forces both of the actives out of Cyclone Spin, and the Jade Dragons nearly get themselves a kill
One
here.
more like that, a good defense potentially around left, might have to be under the Titan. This is going to be the end-all be-all, and you're missing a lot of safety relics on the side of the Dragons, so you have to be very careful and very picky about your engage.
Charon's coin into Soul Reaver for Hurrywind will help out with the frontliners who have been the ones underneath, or I guess above.
Is the small things that are key right now, because the Dragons can't be put under pressure. Cyclone Spin still has 40 seconds before either of his relics are up, so there's good turnaround potential for the Dragons here.
Benji's in the back, and he's on Hurrywin. Sanford Soccer will peel out for his mid laner. The left side Phoenix, an afterthought, and now Layers will taunt in a couple. Panda Cat uses the rocket to get on out. That's River's Rebuke as well from PBM. 3 ultimates down for the Dragons.
And the snipes just now used from Cyclone Spin did not connect the way that we've gotten used to. That's 2 fights in a row. And so far, I want to say seemingly 2 similar fights, although the Titans have knocked down all
Could
3
be it,
Phoenixes
Cor.
at this point. They just need a fight in the Titan room.
Kraken is easily the most impactful ultimate that the Jade Dragons have left, and if the Titans go sieging, It's gotta be a big one from Hurrywind. The Titan is under attack. The Fire Minions have made their way in. Aurora is in as well, looking for a target with the Ragnarok. Hurrywind walks on away, still has his beads. In the back line, Hurrywind watching along, but all the damage is there from the Tartarus Titans. Paul on a rampage. The Titan now an afterthought, and we go on to Game 4 with the Titans ahead.
Actually seems almost unbeatable right now with how the games are being played.
I mean, it's just been domination from the Titans ever since that turnaround in game number 2. For a little bit, it looked like the Jade Dragons might be able to get back into it, but Hurrywind on this Poseidon did not look particularly good, and that's exactly what the Jade Dragons couldn't afford to have happen. This early beads, Aurora waits that out perfectly. Titans playing really well right now, Taco.
The Titans have definitely cleaned things up a bit since that Game 1 performance, but I think that this really all comes back to the same sort of conversation that we've been having throughout each of these desk segments, especially around those picks and bans. That 2v2 fight, it's not even so much about the team fight between these two teams. It really just feels as if whichever mid-jungle gets off to the hot start, that's going to be what dictates the remainder of the game from that point forward. And I think even the first clip that we saw was a level 4 Paul just demolishing Hurry with some incredible burst damage out of the hell.
Cyclone Spin got soloed in this game, but didn't seem to matter too much. That was Panda Cat's only kill. Cyclone in those team fights just consistently peppering Hurrywind with the long-range ROM snipes. Only 11,000 damage for Hurry on this Poseidon in comparison to Paul's 19,000. And oh yeah, 18,000 player healing. That's like taking Hurrywind and PBM's damage and tuning it to 0.
The Titans end up winning. I think at this point, this hell is shown to be just too strong, and it needs to be first picked or it needs to be banned.
Well, they're in first pick now, so theoretically they could do that, whereas the last 2 games the Jade Dragons have been on the second pick side, which enabled Paul to get that hell in the first pick position last time around. So the Jade Dragons have at least that adjustment made underneath their belt. And when in that first pick position, the Jade Dragons banned Raijin, Artemis, and Odin. I've got a feeling the Titans might be banning hell, and they kick it off. I do think, I'm a little surprised though, Bobby, because in situations like this, isn't it better, if you've committed to banning this character, isn't it better to just ban it last to make the Jade Dragons think like, oh, if we do this, maybe we can get hell? I think there's some value in holding that ban a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there is some value. Maybe, oh, we can plan around this hell, they're not banning it, and then it comes out in the third slot. I do think there's a little bit of value there, but there's just no way for like anything for the Jade Dragons to believe that hell is getting through. It's just been so powerful.
Yeah, I guess they have to assume that it's going to get banned. So it is. As is Soul. Seems like the Titans might be trying to focus in on Hurrywind's God Pool in this set. I mean, that Poseidon did not look particularly good, so makes some sense. What do you think of it that way? But now there's Tiamat that you have to worry about, and the Jade Dragons, if they don't ban Tiamat, the Titans almost have to dedicate all 3 bans towards him.
Titans could potentially ban Tiamat, but I do think that there is a world where the Titans actually allow the Tiamat to go through because, again, I'm looking at this from that 2v2 perspective, and I think if I'm the Tartarus Titans, I have that similarity there as well because Tiamat is not known for the early game pressure. It's all about the mid to late where you're really going to hit that power spike stride. So if I'm the Tartarus Titans and I'm trying to hinge everything around early game like they've done 3 games in a row so far, then sacrificing a Tiamat, if they're able to execute in the early game and not have any of these level 2, level 3 blunders where they're sacrificing first blood and then finding themselves trying to play an uphill battle the entire match, well, then Tiamat's really not the worst thing ever to let through, especially when you factor in the likes of Osiris being let through. Erlong Shen has also looked like a very popular pick here. I think that the conversation surrounding Gilgamesh pretty much off the board here because I really don't think that Tartarus Titans care whether or not those like Gilgamesh or Tiamat are left open. They're trying to force the Jade Dragons to I think, be a little bit compromised in that 2v2.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe the Jade Dragons have just taken the bait, but I still feel pretty good if I've got Tiamat one way or another, even if the games have been centered around that 2v2. It is the first pick here. Remember that in this sort of situation, in Game 1 of this set, it was Tiamat and Yemoja left open, and the Jade Dragons took the Yemoja. So the Titans decide that Yemoja is something to take off the board, and with Hell also taken out, making sure that there's as little healing as possible makes some sense.
I think the Titans are on the same page that we are, that 2v2 is so important that even trading Yemoja for Tiamat isn't that worth just because Tia's not going to give you that early game. I'm actually surprised Erlang wasn't prioritized. I think Erlang is just about the strongest it can get in that 2v2 because of the CC he has, the follow-up, the damage, like everything that he has is just super strong. You also said that Osiris is 0-5 today.
Yep.
Is that not in the back of their minds maybe? And Erlang Osiris picking them both, even though they're both great junglers, both have flex. Or I guess Osiris has flex.
Yeah, I mean, I think FineOK, or no, it wasn't FineOK. Who played Erlang Shen solo this phase? Someone did. It blew my mind. It was Haddix. Haddix played Erlang Shen solo, and I was like, that's crazy. And finally, the Kabrakan that has been banned like every single game away from the Jade Dragons is finally locked in here. The question is it for FineOK, or is it for Sam for Soccer, or is it for PBM? It feels like all three of them could potentially play it.
And now we get to kind of see the strength of the Kabrakan, because we saw it banned 3 games in a row, and now we get to see if those bans were actually good bans. Maybe this Kabrakan runs that.
Okay, here's where I am. Kabrakan's not that good. I think he's like fine. Do you really think he was worth that prioritization?
I'm going to say, with that foul buff, if he can actually get a good use of Stone of Foul, it makes him impossible to deal with, because he's got like 23% mitigation just in his kit and the foul, or something like that.
Okay, foul helps him. Taco, how good do you think Kabrakan is?
I'm also looking, if it's Sam with Kabrakan jungle, that might be ideal here, because this Erlang Shen, probably a bigger tendency that it's going to be put into that jungle position as well. And then Kabrakan, you can't be rooted. He has tools that automatically kind of deflect some of the pressure that Erlang Shen might introduce. I'm more interested in this ROM pickup, because Cyclone Spin on the Izanami, and even when he had the ROM, he has been getting very heavily pressured out by Pandacat time and time again, just looking at the direct 1v1 between these two hunters. So duo lane priority might be where the Jade Dragons are trying to shift things back to, but seeing this Morgan, seeing this Erlang Shen, even the Osiris, because again, still that flexibility clause, I do believe that the Tartarus Titans are just going to try and force the Jade Dragons to be reined in to that mid as opposed to the side lanes.
Yeah, it could be the case. I mean, Dan Zaburo has been the pick for Pandacat so far, and he has run the duo lane 1v1, no doubt about that, but has not been able to translate that into those team fights where those ROM snipes were so critical in the last game, trying to get them for themselves this time around. And with the Morgan on the other side, bringing some more assassin identity to this Titan squad, definitely a different playstyle for Paul, but one that we know he's pretty darn good at.
Paul loves playing like an assassin as is, and I think that that's where Layers Godpool can kind of complement him, because he's giving him the ideal transformations, whether it's Erlang, whether it's Osiris. Kabrakan maybe not as problematic if you're able to just burst through him from the get-go, and I think that Kabrakan kind of suffers the same issues as Erlang, where he can be a little bit more on that feast or famine side.
Khepri gets let through. I'm a little surprised. I thought that might be the second ban, Ares Khepri as the 2, but it ends up being a Danzaburo ban. Certainly Pandacat is like that matchup, but Cyclone Spin, I don't really remember playing a whole lot of Dans. I'm surprised the Khepri gets let through.
It must just be like a Pandacat, like it's just maybe an unwinnable matchup that he assumes, so he just wants to ban the Dan, so he has a more free laning phase.
Pele, the pickup here for Sam. This is a Sam special, an iconic Pele player, but Pele's not exactly in the strongest spot.
I think they were taking away Aurora's Pele, so.
Oh, smart,
yeah.
smart.
True,
They must have
true,
missed the
true,
Khepri
true.
on the other side. Yeah, they
Oh,
must have.
true.
Yeah, I mean, Pele for Sam, interesting. I mean,
But I am curious to see how it's going to translate into the game. Sam, I think, as you had heard Bobby say there on the desk, is going to have a fun matchup, at least in Nepal. And that's where a lot of these points of contention have been. It's that 2v2 in mid, because that's in the first 30 seconds to a minute. That's where everybody seems to be fighting as of right now. Paul was the one kind of leading it. You got your wish, a hellless game that we're going to have to deal with. And then you have to start weighing Morrigan versus Tiamat. They both have so many strengths and weaknesses. Erlang looked good for Layers last time around. I mean, there's just so many little matchups here that I think could make or break this game. The Dragons are going to have to be the ones to step up.
Benji didn't do any damage with his little circle there. FineOK was just wailing away on the
Start
ground.
using that to revive those teammates. It is such a difficult ult to deal with. I mean, essentially, they have 6 lives on the Titans that you're going to have to burn through.
Oof. Could be tough for FineOK here. Rooted himself in place. Lord of the Afterlife, as well as the taunt from Layers. Double stun won't mean much. Not when the minions are keeping you right where you are. And it's the Tartarus Titans, and more specifically, Layers getting first blood yet again. To start getting involved, I think, is the next thing to look at here, because there are some great targets. There's Paul and Cyclone Spin as kind of the insta-delete options. And you're starting to get underway in that build here a little bit on this Pele. So one jungler's gotten involved early. Cyclone Spin's going to get involved around this Pyromancer with his ultimate. Polar Bear Mike jumped on. Paul gets the kill. The Jade Dragons now down a support, but a taunt from Layers keeps this fight in question, and Layers has got Sam for Soccer as well. Sam gets involved in all the wrong ways, and the Tartarus Titans get 2 more.
I mean, what a great way to jump on them. A good bait from the Pyromancer. That fight unfolds, you know, more or less the way that they're going to try and stylize around it. So I'm excited to see what the Dragons have to offer, especially with an Oni Fury coming up. They've got a lot of pressure on the tower so far. They've knocked down 1 more than the Titans have been able to, and like you had mentioned, 80% damage on that tier 2. This is big.
Wow, the Tartarus Titans do a lot of damage to the Oni Fury, but Aurora takes a lot of damage in exchange. Sam for Soccer 3 levels down from Layers, doesn't care, rushes in, but Aurora takes almost nothing on the back end of that. Final K is in behind the Titans, but does not do anything. It's a stun, and it's a stagger onto Benji and Layers. The Jade Dragons get some good damage in. Can Panda Cat find the snipes with his ultimate? Won't attempt it here because he's got to leave. Cyclone Spin attempting to root down Final K, won't. Polar Bear Mike will be the sacrifice, and the Jade Dragons, 4 alive, will get out.
Now, normally this is one of those circumstances. I'd say, oh, well, the Dragons, they only lose their support. Oh, except they lost the Fury too. They did not get a good engage the way they wanted to, and nobody's got healers this time around, at least nowhere near the same state. I guess Aurora's passive taking through is helpful in terms of getting people through there, but they just did not have what they needed to get the kills.
Frontliners that'll be running at Cyclone Spin are going to be having a tough time.
And I actually like that for the Chernobog, because, I mean, think about the way his engage is going to work. Who's he going to land on? Maybe he does dive into the back line. If he has Layers, maybe Paul, someone to help him out. But for the most part, he's going to be looking for Burn. And Burn is what they're going to try to do here as well. I actually really like their engage. I like the way they're leveraging this.
Fire Giant beneath half HP. Final K is inside the Fire Giant pit with the rest of the Tartarus Titans. Panda Cat dealing big damage to Benji. Can Hurrywin disengage? He'll do one better. He'll do a lot of damage, but look at the big stun onto the Jade Dragons, and it's Benji jumping in. It's Paul dealing damage in there as well. Cyclone Spin's got the Scarab's Blessing because the Jade Dragons will not give up. Panda Cat's got the snipes to even the score.
But the kills, look how low PBN is. Benji's still running.
Oh, Benji not able to get the kill. It's a 2 for 2. Carries alive for the Tartarus Titans. Panda Cat alive and full HP for the Jade Dragons. This fight is even.
A great set of snipes. If Panda Cat isn't able to connect on those, this is wildly different.
Everyone, Gore, had to use both of their actives in that fight. Only Panda Cat didn't use either. Everyone else on the Jade Dragons used both.
Cyclone Spin with his sunglasses on, like, I don't need to use my beads.
Yeah, who needs the beads? Panda Cat and Final K, Gore, they're looking towards the Fire Giant right now. The Tartarus Titans on different sides of the map. Cyclone Spin does not have his ultimate. Sam for Soccer gets taunted in by Layers here.
Oh, Layers.
Lots of damage connecting onto Layers and some CC in as well. Final K's used his ultimate. That's now missing. Layers has as well. 1 for 1 in the ultimate department.
That was a very large flurry on Layers for him to still end up at 2/3
now
HP.
The crit from the Rage is just going to be something a little nice, something a little extra. Rings out for a couple there. But now all of his damage won't necessarily be completely mitigated by these Spectral Armors.
It's bonus damage, and you can tell, at least in my eyes, that Rage being picked up means he's not focused on the front line. He's focused on the Cyclones, the Pauls, the Layers.
Well, it's going fast. Fire Giant is going down quickly. Polar Bear Mike and Final K have to act fast. Layers has tried to taunt one in, but it's only Final K that's there, so that ultimate now down. Sam for Soccer looking for Paul around the back. Fire Giant gets reset. And we'll start healing up here. Final K pulled back in, uses the beads, and he'll walk out.
Ult for ult, though. Layers uses the taunt. Final K uses the walls. And so Paul now is the one who could capably turn into the Cabrakan and throw up a lot of that disengage potential. From that point forward, if Paul dies, he started off the fight the way they need to, and the rest of the Titans would be able to jump on him. And that's usually where we've seen a lot of that pivot point around this Morgan end up going. Right now, though, he's not even around this fight. Yeah. I think this is a good spot for the Dragons to potentially put some pressure on there. But I don't know if they know he's nowhere nearby.
Final K has to use his ult to get out. That is brutal now for the Jade Dragons. They might have to delay. If the Tartarus Titans can take advantage of that. Now with chin size for Layers and for Cyclone Spin, no surprise. As Fire Giant is going as quickly as it is. Final K not able to go back to base. Realizes that the Titans are on the FG, and they still are. Aurora has not reset things just yet. Neither is Layers. The rest of the damage being delayed for just a moment. It's a blink in from Final K and Abduct, and the Tartarus Titans secure the FG. Final K locked into the pit. Hurrywin's got to get something done here. Nearly gets the kill onto Paul. PBM is going to chase down the mid laner. Deep in the back line, snipes from Cyclone Spin. Not enough this time, but Layers has gotten a kill. And Final K is down as well. The Jade Dragons lose 2, and the Tartarus Titans continue their onslaught.
Oh, the turnaround damage from Panda Cat was so good,
game?
but he's got no frontliners.
Gore, Panda Cat might go down here. The Tartarus Titans might have dealt the killing blow to the Jade Dragons.
That's a good turnaround.
Turns it around. Double kill for Panda. Keeps the Jade Dragons in game 4.
He's so low, though, and they still have Cyclone Spin. They still have Aurora. Look, that is a lot of frontline, but look at all the towers that are still standing. The Dragons haven't lost anything in their map state. It's going to take the Titans forever if they tried to rush that down. One hit away, and yet they recognize that the only person who's chasing him at the time is
my
PBM,
God.
and this is just...
That is disgusting.
Hey, remember that conversation we were having about the crit being for the layers of the world?
That is
Is
disgusting.
why. I think that you're not trying to talk about cracking the base right now. Well, you've got a few seconds. I mean, Cyclone Spin has FG. That opens up all conversations for trying to knock down a Phoenix. But it is a risky fight to take. You lose that, there's a tier 2 that is one hit on the other side.
Whoa.
Instead, he's going for the 1v1.
Cyclone Spin looking to 1v1.
Oh, no, he's just going for defense.
Is there... Alright, so I don't know how that works. I'm going to hold off on this because it's actually a pretty important fight. If Sanford Soccer had backed...
Yeah.
And Cyclone Spin... There's no... Is there any interaction there where Cyclone Spin ends up traveling to Sam, who's back in the fountain, and then dying?
I think not once he selected him.
Okay. And Paul. Paul's also got Spectral Armor.
Yeah,
At the end of that
stifle
build there.
Stop him. Tell him no.
Why not? Why not? When Panda Cat makes a play like that, you gotta respect it. And especially if what I just said is true, where the Jade Dragons are relying on Panda Cat. A lot of the damage onto Benji anyway. The Fire Giant is still not spawned. It is going to spawn as we speak here. And so these couple of trades actually could be impactful. If you have to send somebody back to base, that's where the Jade Dragons can pull an advantage. Tiamat minions take down the tier 2 tower on the left and are going to start moving in onto that Phoenix soon. The Tartarus Titans might have to get somebody back in base to deal with that.
That's the most difficult call to make. Benji doesn't have teleport. Really difficult to argue sending him back. You need
the pings.
to either take the fight, take the Fire Giant, or start your back.
The Jade Dragons know this. They're pinging down the left side of the map here. What you can't do if you're the Jade Dragons is lose a big fight here, because the Tartarus Titans nearly won the game just a moment ago. You need to delay things for the Tartarus Titans. Paul was thinking about backing, will not back. Half HP on the left side Phoenix. The Tiamat minions likely getting that one done. Cyclone Spin goes back. That's the right target. You have the ult. You can get back into the fight. But that is now a win condition for the Jade Dragons if this next fight goes well. A little bit further forward here. They are in a 10,000 gold deficit and still driving this bus. The Jade Dragons not ready to go out of the Phase 2 playoffs. They want to push us on to a Game 5, but they got to win a fight against the Titans first.
The only place that you're really feeling that gold disparity right now, a few items still needing to be finished, but PBM doesn't have his last item versus Aurora, who's been able to not only get his upgraded starter, upgrade his relics, but also now has a finished... Yeah, Ethereal Staff down.
Started. Enhanced Fire Giant begun by the Tartarus Titans. Benji takes a whole lot of damage, but he is tethered down onto Hurrywin. Panda Cat, Paul, they're 1v1 here. Panda Cat able to roll away, but Cyclone Spin, ult into the back line. The snipes on down, onto Cyclone Spin, but Panda Cat crashes back to earth. Cyclone Spin puts him in the dirt. Final K needs to get one here. Sanford Soccer, it's a massive knock-up, and Sanford Soccer picks up one. Final K adds another. The Jade Dragons are doing it to him, baby. Aurora, the last one alive. It's going to be the DSI, and the Jade Dragons come up big.
I mean, that is such a huge turnaround, but look, the minions, the Oni wave, pushed up on their left-hand side. But Dave,
can they end?
50 seconds with nobody here. I think they just run this down. There's nothing to worry about. You have no stress in the world. Just do it.
The Jade Dragons, Gore, they're not concerning you at all. They'll walk down the mid lane here. I got a bit of a head rush standing up after that one. You are down 10,000 gold. You lose your carry immediately at the start of the fight. And then you turn it around. They're not going to look for
they
the
don't have the damage for it.
They don't have the damage. Panda Cat is dead. And this game goes on.
This is now the most awkward. I guess you could still get a Pyromancer. You should be able to get FG.
Somehow
yeah, 20
the Jade
seconds
Dragons
before
lose
anybody
more
else.
of their base than the Tartarus Titans do.
But they get the EFG.
You have to do this. They're not doing it fast. Cyclone Spin is up in 10. I don't see a world where he has his ult back in time, so it should be Enhanced Fire Giant for the Jade Dragons. Will be on all 5 members of the team. And so the end is not nigh, not just yet, but it might be for the Tartarus Titans with one more push. Shannon didn't, right? And you still got 2 minutes, 15 seconds on the Enhanced Fire Giant buff. So the Jade Dragons in a commanding power position here, fighting in to the Tartarus Titans' Titan defense.
Team fight checklist, relics, ults, all up.
Into the mid lane. 1 minute left on the Enhanced Fire Giant buff of the Jade Dragons. They've been able to tickle the left side Phoenix just a bit. But laying in wait is Polar Bear Mike, Sanford Soccer, and the rest of these Jade Dragons to find that engagement, and the engagement is now. Polar Bear Mike blinks into the base of the Tartarus Titans. Final K kiting on backwards. The Phoenix is still alive, but look at the damage. The front line's taken. Cyclone Spin swings first. Polar Bear Mike, he's all alone with the rest of the
front
Titans.
line's gone.
Enhanced FG does not matter, and Cyclone Spin pushing on the gas.
And that's immediately the way to go in. Look at the crits ringing true. Panda Cat has no health to work with.
Panda Cat's gotta go big here, but Benji is gonna chase him down.
Looking for the
Sanford
slow.
Soccer is in the back line here, but I'm not sure Sam
One more
can
hit!
do much. Benji comes up big. Panda Cat in the grave. The Jade Dragons are as well. Bye-bye, Dragons. Sanford Soccer, the last one in this game.
And he's going to try to turn this into a base race, maybe? I mean, he's got minions, and he's going for the Phoenix. He's still got the FG buff, but what can he do versus Benji?
Gore, I don't think he can do much. Benji is going to win this 1v1. The Tartarus Titans pouring into the base of the Jade Dragons. Your Phase 1 champions being upset in round number 1. An Enhanced Fire Giant fight goes to the Dragons, but it does not matter. Tartarus Titans win it in 4.
I mean, that is exactly the kind of play you want to see. Look, if you change junglers, if you go through what they did in terms of rosters, this is what you want out of the Titans. A good pickup here, a good win against the Dragons, a great way to start it off. I mean, they lost that first game so heavily that it felt like it was going to be 3. And the
To be able to maintain your mental in that sort of instance, I'm sure, Bobby, you would even know from a pro player standing, it is tough when you watch your entire front line in front of you just fall apart, and yet you still have the sense about you to realize I can make this play happen.
Yeah, I'm usually the front line that's like dying at the beginning of a fight, but like, yeah, I know all about that. I mean, it really was incredible. The fact that you can get so low on health and still know like where you need to walk instead of just like walking straight or just like walking away from the enemy team, and then like just like the mental composure to be able to roll back in or like walk back in to be able to take that fight and then win it and hit the autos. There's an incredible play by him.
Huge play by him. The problem that happened in this game is on this left side Phoenix Siege. Final K died without getting his ultimate off. Just can't happen in these sorts of moments, right? I mean, this fight is over before Final K uses his ultimate. Sam doesn't use his ultimate this whole fight. I don't know what did that much damage to Panda Cat in that fight, but all of a sudden, you know, it's all going horribly. Then it's going great for the Dragons, and then a just abysmal Phoenix fight.
Yeah, Fine even had beads there, so I don't know exactly. Maybe he just underestimated how much damage he was going to take there. I don't know if it was the crit maybe from Cyclone that just kind of shredded him a bit, but he definitely just took way too much damage, sat in that Phoenix, and was in enemy range for too long and just died too quickly.
13,000 damage for Final K, but very effective damage. Don't want to get it twisted there, but 33K for Benji on that Osiris. Yeah, still pretty good.
I mean, if you win the set, it's a great feeling. You have the momentum. The only problem is you have to win the set to start it. So obviously you got to give them a little bit of momentum going into this game, and they've got a pretty good chance.
Big game tomorrow at Bolts and Leviathans. That will actually be our first game that we're broadcasting, and it will be in studio, so you know the energy is going to be there for that one. And then the Camelot Kings up against the Tartarus Titans. Taco, you can't go wrong whenever you're tuning in tomorrow.
No, there is just way too much high-caliber Smite, I think, that's going to be taking place here. And the fact that we even get to experience another land treat from the Leviathans and Bolts, those sets are always so fantastic to kind of get it. I feel bad for the crowd that's watching at home that they can't actually be here with us in studio seeing that take place.